Good morning, boys and girls, and welcome to your math lesson for today. We are actually continuing this math lesson from your Wednesday lesson, which was lesson 16. So today we're doing part 2. Okay, you're going to just get some extra practice on placing whole number fractions and fraction between the whole numbers on a number line. So please grab a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen and follow along with me. Okay, we are going to draw a number line with the endpoints 3 and 6. Okay, so take a moment, pause the video, and draw that. Okay, so you should have a number line with your two holes represented. 3, which is right here, and 6, which is right here. You need to now place the other holes that are missing. Well, we know that we've got, if you're counting up by ones, we have 3, 4, 5. So I am missing 2 holes on my number line. Please go ahead and draw those in on your number line right now. So you should have your number line looking just like this. All right. Now it's asking you to partition into halves. All right. You can see that up there. It's asking you to partition it into halves. All right. Well, I know that halves are 2. So I'm going to go ahead and partition this in half for each one. Okay, now if I'm going to label each fraction with, each whole number with a fraction and each partition with a fraction, I need to start with my first whole, 3. Okay, and you can see here, 3, we start with our whole. Now, I know that halves means 2. So my denominator is going to be 2 because it's halves. Now, here's a trick. Every time you're working with a whole number and you're looking for what the numerator is going to be, that number on top, just multiply your denominator with your whole number, and that will give you the number that goes in your numerator slot. So what is 2 times 3? 6. So you should have 6 halves. I always start with the whole numbers because I find it easier to identify and label my wholes versus the partitions to begin with. So let's all finish 4, 5, and 6. Pause the video and see if you can try it yourself. Start with the denominator, which is 2, and multiply it by your whole number. Okay, try now. All right, so I did 2 times 4 is 8. So now I know that that fraction is 8 halves. 2 times 5 is 10. So I have 10 halves. And 2 times 6 is 12, which is 12 halves. Now, if I'm going to go, now I can easily go back into and label my partitions. So if this is 6, I know my next one is going to be 7 halves. Okay, go ahead and finish the rest of the number line. So you can see that we have finished our labeling our number line with not only the whole numbers, but the partitions as well. Now, one thing that I know a lot of the problems are asking you to do are box the whole numbers. Okay, so go ahead and do that. Pause the video and box the numbers. Okay, so your number line should look something similar to this. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to try another problem. Let's just do another practice together. This one says partition each whole into thirds. Label each fraction. Count up as you go. Box the fractions that are located at the same points as the whole numbers. Okay, so basically this is the exact same thing that we just did, but with different numbers. Instead, our whole number, our secret code word is black. You're starting with 4 and going up to 7. Okay, so we have 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we need to break these up into thirds. Okay, so I know automatically that my fraction, my denominator, is going to start with 3. It's going to start with 3. So actually over each a whole number, I am going to write 3 as my denominator. All right, and then I'm going to go, remember that trick, 3 times your whole number becomes your numerator. Pause the video and try it on your own. Okay, does yours look like mine? You should have 12 thirds, 15 thirds, 18 thirds, and 21 thirds. Now, if I'm going to partition into each whole should be partitioned into thirds. So let's go ahead and draw those lines. So I've broken 4 into thirds. Okay, now let's break up 5 into thirds. Okay, and now I'm going to break up 6 into thirds. Okay, go ahead, pause the video, and fill in the fractions that go with each partition. Remember, it's easier because you already have your wholes identified. So what comes after 12? 13. So now we know that this one is going to be 13 thirds. Okay, your number line should look something like this, all right? Where you have each whole labeled. We are missing something though, because it does tell us to box the fractions that are located at the same points as the whole. So let's go ahead and box those. Okay. Okay. It's very important that you remember that 12 thirds is equivalent to 4 wholes. Okay. 15 thirds is equivalent to 5 wholes. 18 thirds is equivalent to 6 wholes. 21 thirds is equivalent to 7 wholes. Okay, so let's continue on with our next practice. We've got one more, and then I'm going to show you your task for today. So you're going to go ahead and draw a number line with the endpoints 0 and 3. Pause the video, do that. Does yours look like this? Great. Okay, now please label the holes, which we've done, okay? But we also need to fill in the rest of the holes that we have missing. I'm missing 1 and 2. Pause the video and draw those holes in. Great. Now we're going to take a moment and partition the whole, each whole, into fifths. Now, actually, before we do this, I do have a question for you. How many equal parts are there? Take a moment. Got 1 part, 2 equal parts, 3 equal parts. So yes, this number line represents 3 equal parts. All right, now let's go ahead and partition each whole, each equal part, into fifths. Pause the video and do this. Okay, yours should look something like mine. Now we're going to go ahead and label each fraction. I always start with the whole numbers. So I'm going to start with 0 and go up to 3. Sorry. So I've got 0, 1, 2, and 3 that I will be working with. Now I know that I've broken them up into fifths, so my denominator is going to be 5. Okay, if I have 0, I know I start with 0. Okay, moving on, let's do 1. If I have 5 as my denominator, remember my trick, 5 times 1 whole equals 5. So my numerator is 5. Let's do it again with 2. Actually, go ahead, you do it with 2 and 3. Pause the video and come back to me. Okay, did you get 10 fifths for 2 and 15 fifths for 3? Excellent. All right, now it's easier for you to fill in this number line with your partition. So if you start at 0, the next number is 1. So you know that this number is going to be 1/5. Then 2 fifths. Then 3 fifths, 4 fifths. Go ahead, pause the video, and fill in the rest of this number line. Does yours look like mine? Perfect. All right, I think you guys are getting the hang of it. This is extra practice, remember, so good job. Okay, I wanted to show you what you're going to be doing today for your classwork. All right, it's very similar to what you did on Wednesday, so just be aware that the numbers have changed, but it's the same concepts, all right? Now, I've made all the boxes for you here so that you're good to go. All right, notice your whole numbers here. You're starting with 2, and we're sorry, just so you know, we're starting with B over here, okay? You start with 2 as your whole, and you go to 3. And it's asking you to break this up into eighths. So you know that your denominator is 8. So remember my trick, 8 times the whole equals what? Okay, again, same here. Your denominator is 8. 8 times the whole equals what? Okay, then you get to drag this line over. You know that eighths is a whole number, so you can break it up in half. This is a trick that I always use. Anytime that you have a fraction that is an even number, then you can start by breaking it up in half. And this makes it easier for you to have those evenly spaced out lines, okay? So there's my half point, and then I'm going to drag on my next one, and I'm going to break this in half. Okay, then I'm going to break this in half. And now I have fourths. So what am I going to have to do? Break each equal part up again. So bring it over, cut it in half. Bring it over, cut it in half. Bring it over, cut it in half, and bring it over, cut it in half. Now, does it have to be exactly correct? No. But am I pretty close? Absolutely. Okay, and this is where you get to drag your fraction over each line. Okay, you know that your denominator is 8. So if this one is 16, then this one's going to be 17. Okay, and just continually drag it over that way. That's all you have to do for today. Okay, you do have 2 more pages of this practice, but try your best, all right? And if you have any questions, make sure you ask your teacher for help.